My pregnant sister begged me to help raise her baby. Then her boyfriend said, Karen had said it was fine and I was doing them a solid since he had a fantasy he wanted to go for. I told them both they were disgusting and called the cops. But let me back up and explain how I ended up in a position where my own sister was essentially trying to prostitute me out to her creepy boyfriend. This story starts 7 years ago when I moved to the U.S. as a 20-year-old with nothing but determination and a work visa. Today, I'm a 27-year-old cybersecurity analyst earning $85,000 annually with my own apartment, investments, and a professional network that includes lawyers, immigration specialists, and law enforcement contacts. My sisters had no idea about any of this when they decided to mess with me. I have 2 half-sisters from my father's side, both from different women. Despite them being what some people might call illegitimate, I always treated them as full sisters. When our grandparents passed away and left me a $30,000 inheritance, while completely excluding my sisters, I didn't hesitate to share it equally. I gave each of them $10,000 because families should stick together, or so I thought. 2 years ago, both sisters decided to follow my path to America. Mary, 28, secured a work visa through a tech company that was impressed with her coding skills. Karen, 30, got a student visa and immediately asked if she could stay with me. I was already established in my career, earning good money, and had a 2-bedroom apartment, so I agreed to what seemed like a reasonable arrangement. The deal was simple. I would cover all bills, rent, and food while Karen focused on her studies. She would get a campus job for spending money since student visa holders can work on campus, and help with minor chores around the apartment. I have a German Shepherd named Rex and a tabby cat named Pixel, but I told her she had no responsibility for them since I work from home most days. It seemed like a sweet deal for a student, especially considering I was saving her about $2,000 monthly in living expenses. Everything changed when Karen met Ken during her second semester. I knew Ken from my own university days 3 years earlier. He was the type of guy who made inappropriate comments during group projects and had been reported to the Title IX office multiple times, though nothing ever stuck. When Karen told me she was dating him, I pulled her aside for a serious conversation. Ken has a reputation on campus, I told her, showing her some screenshots I'd saved from a campus safety forum where multiple women had posted warnings about him. I'm not telling you who to date, but please be careful. Karen brushed off my concerns completely. She was head over heels and insisted Ken was just misunderstood. I established one firm boundary. Ken was not allowed in my apartment. I wasn't comfortable with him knowing where I lived or having access to my space. When COVID hit in March 2020, everything went sideways. My hours at work were cut to part-time, dropping my income to about $35,000 temporarily. Karen lost her campus job when the university shut down. We had to move to a smaller, cheaper apartment, and I took on freelance cybersecurity consulting work to make ends meet. I was working 60-hour weeks between my main job and side projects, barely sleeping, with no social life whatsoever. This is when Ken started appearing at our new apartment regularly. Since Karen wasn't on my lease and my landlord was understanding about temporary guests, I couldn't legally bar him from the property. But his presence made my skin crawl from day one. Ken would make comments about my appearance that were supposedly compliments but felt deeply inappropriate. He'd say things like, "You have such an exotic look. I bet guys love that mixed Caribbean thing you have going on." He'd find excuses to touch my shoulder when talking or brush past me in the narrow kitchen when there was clearly enough room. What really disturbed me was how Karen started pushing for me to spend alone time with Ken. "You should get to know your future brother-in-law better," she'd say, suggesting we watch movies together while she was in class, or that I show him around the city. After 7 months of dating, she was already talking about him as permanent family, which seemed premature and concerning. I found excuses to avoid these situations. When Ken was over, I'd either lock myself in my bedroom with my pets or suddenly remember they needed long walks. I started timing my grocery runs for when he'd be visiting. My home had become a place where I felt uncomfortable and unsafe, but I didn't want to kick out my sister who had nowhere else to go. The breakthrough in my career came in November 2020 when I landed a senior cybersecurity analyst position at a Fortune 500 company. My salary jumped to $85,000, plus benefits and stock options. I was able to quit the freelance work and finally had time to reconnect with friends and rebuild my social life. That's when I learned the horrifying truth about what Ken had been telling people around town. My friend Jake, who works in IT at the university, asked me to grab coffee one afternoon. "Hey, I need to ask you something kind of awkward," he said, looking uncomfortable. "Ken's been telling people around campus that he's very close to getting some personal time with you. He's made some pretty graphic comments about what he wants to do. Are you okay?" My blood turned to ice. What exactly has he been saying? Jake showed me screenshots that other friends had sent him. Ken had been bragging in group chats about having a fantasy involving me and how Karen was working on making it happen. The messages were explicit and disgusting. He described intimate details about my body that he could only know from watching me around the apartment. He'd even taken photos of me without my knowledge and shared them, calling them preview material. I felt violated and furious, but also confused. How was Karen involved in this? I confronted them that evening, presenting the screenshots and demanding an explanation. They didn't even try to deny it. Ken actually seemed proud. Karen said it was fine, and I was doing them a solid since he had a fantasy he wanted to go for, he said with a disgusting smirk. "She knows how much this means to me, and you're not even using your body for anything important." Karen nodded along. "I don't see what the big deal is. You and your boyfriend are on a break anyway." "We weren't on a break." "You're always saying families should help each other. This would really help Ken get over some things." I stared at both of them in complete disbelief. My own sister had been actively trying to facilitate her boyfriend sexually assaulting me, and they both thought this was a reasonable request because we're family. "You're both absolutely disgusting," I said, my voice shaking with rage. "Ken, you have exactly 10 minutes to get your things and get out of my apartment. If you're not gone, I'm calling the police." "You can't kick me out," Ken argued. "I practically live here now." "Watch me." I pulled out my phone and started dialing 911. Ken left, but not before calling me every misogynistic slur he could think of. Karen followed him to the door, then turned back to me with tears in her eyes. "I can't believe you're choosing some stupid moral high ground over helping your family," she said. "Do you know how hard it's been for Ken to find someone who understands his needs?" "I am not property to be shared around," I told her firmly. "You have 2 weeks to find somewhere else to live. I'm done with you." I immediately called my immigration lawyer, my therapist, and 3 family members to document what had happened. I sent screenshots of Ken's messages to my cousin, who works in law enforcement, and she helped me file a police report for harassment and potential stalking. Within a week, I had a restraining order against Ken that prohibited him from coming within 500 feet of me, my apartment, or my workplace. Karen moved in with Ken 3 days later, taking only her belongings and leaving behind a note calling me selfish and frigid. I changed all my locks, installed a security system, and blocked both of them on all social media platforms. For 18 months, I heard nothing from either of them except occasional run-ins around town that ended with me showing them my phone ready to dial 911. The restraining order was a powerful deterrent, and my professional network had spread word through the community about what kind of people they were. Ken lost 2 jobs due to his reputation, and Karen struggled to find work anywhere in our small mountain town. Then last month, Mary called me with news that changed everything. "Karen's pregnant," Mary told me during our weekly check-in call, and Ken kicked her out of his place the day she told him. I stared at my phone for a full minute before responding. "That's unfortunate for her." Mary knew my position on Karen, and she supported my decision to maintain no contact. But she was still Karen's sister, too, and felt obligated to at least inform me about major family developments. "She's staying with me for a week before I move to Portland for my new job. Just thought you should know in case she tries to contact you." 2 days later, Karen used Mary's phone to call me. I almost hung up when I heard her voice, but curiosity got the better of me. "Please, I'm begging you to help me," Karen sobbed into the phone. "I have nowhere else to go. Mary's leaving for Oregon and I can't go with her. I missed my little sister so much, and I know you have family health insurance. You help those other relatives with medical bills. You could do the same for my pregnancy. This baby is a blessing, and I know you'd want to help me raise it." She went on for several minutes about how I should take her in, pay for all her medical expenses, and essentially financially support her and her child indefinitely. The entitlement was breathtaking. When she finally stopped talking, I said very calmly, "No." "What do you mean, no?" "I mean no. N-O. I will not be helping you with anything related to this pregnancy or your living situation. You made your choice when you tried to pimp me out to your boyfriend. Now live with the consequences." I hung up and blocked Mary's number temporarily to prevent further calls. Karen called from several other numbers over the next few days, leaving increasingly desperate voicemails. She tried contacting me through work email, which violated my company's harassment policy and gave me grounds for additional legal action. She even showed up at my apartment building, but my doorman has strict instructions about unwelcome visitors, and the security cameras captured her pounding on the locked entrance door while screaming about what a selfish bitch I am. The final straw came when Karen's aunt, not my aunt, but someone I'd known for years, started pressuring me through text messages to step up and help family in need. After a full day of guilt-tripping messages, I sent her a simple response. "One more message about Karen and I'll forward screenshots of this entire conversation to your landlord." The messages stopped immediately. But Karen wasn't done. She convinced Mary to arrange one final family meeting before Mary moved to Oregon. "She just wants closure," Mary explained, "and I want to make sure she understands exactly where things stand before I leave town." Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet them for brunch at a neutral public location. Mary promised that if Karen tried to follow me home, she'd physically prevent it. The meeting was supposed to be a civilized discussion, but Karen had prepared a full presentation on why I should take her back into my life. She had written lists of reasons, financial projections of what supporting her would cost me. Apparently, she'd researched my salary and knew exactly how much I could afford to give her, and even drafted a roommate agreement that would essentially make me her landlord and financial provider, while she raised her child in my spare bedroom. When I rejected every single proposition, Karen's mask fully slipped. "You're just mad because you'll never get pregnant," she screamed at me across the restaurant table. This was a deeply personal attack. I am infertile due to a medical condition, something Karen knew was a sensitive topic for me. It's not something I can get treatment for, and while I've made peace with it, the wound is still there. Mary immediately stepped in. "One more comment like that and you'll be sleeping on the street tonight," she told Karen firmly, but Karen wasn't finished. "Fine, then adopt my baby. You want a kid so badly, here's your chance." I laughed out loud at the audacity. "You think I would adopt a child from someone I never want to see again? A child who would be a permanent reminder of how you betrayed me? You're completely delusional." Mary had heard enough. She stood up, threw money on the table, and told Karen, "You have 3 options. Get an abortion, move back to our home country where you can get free health care, or move to our brother's country where he's offered to take you in. You have until Friday to choose. After that, you're on your own completely." She grabbed my arm and walked me out of the restaurant while Karen sat there crying over her rejected demands. Outside, Mary apologized for Karen's behavior and told me something I'll never forget. "You've lost the right to spend time in person with either of us. You put our little sister at risk of assault, and I'll never forgive you for that." We went for ice cream afterward, just like we used to as kids, and talked about our plans for holidays and visits once she moved to Portland. A week later, Karen made her choice, but it wasn't one of the 3 options we'd given her. Instead, Karen and Ken decided to try claiming squatters' rights on Mary's old rental house. Mary had already sold it, and the new owners were supposed to take possession that weekend, but Karen and Ken broke in, changed the locks, and claimed it was their legal residence. When Mary and her girlfriend returned from a final trip to a nearby national park, they found their key didn't work and could hear people moving around inside. The police arrived to find Karen and Ken claiming ownership of a house neither of them had any legal right to occupy. When officers asked for identification, Ken and Mary's girlfriend presented valid documents. Karen only had an expired passport. That's when everything unraveled for her. Karen was arrested on immigration charges for overstaying her visa. Ken was arrested for breaking and entering, trespassing, and several other charges related to the break-in. The whole scheme collapsed within hours, and both of them were taken into custody. But Karen's desperation led to one final incredible lie. From jail, Karen told her public defender that she was my surrogate, and the baby she was carrying was actually my child. She claimed I was the intended parent and should be responsible for her legal fees and custody arrangements. The lawyer called me directly. "Your sister says you hired her as a surrogate and that you're the intended parent of her child. Is this accurate?" "Absolutely not," I told him. "I've never entered into any surrogacy arrangement with anyone. My sister got pregnant by accident with her boyfriend, Ken, who was recently arrested alongside her. I already have a foster daughter and have no interest in adopting Karen's child." The lawyer tried to pressure me. "If you won't take responsibility for the baby, your sister will likely be deported." "Then that's what will happen," I replied. "I've asked you not to contact me about her legal situation anymore." Karen was given the opportunity to leave the United States voluntarily rather than face formal deportation proceedings. She would have no negative marks on her immigration record if she agreed to go willingly. My mother called me, asking if I would pay for Karen's plane ticket home. Mary and I agreed to split the cost under one condition. Karen would never contact either of us again for any reason. Karen took the deal and flew back to our home country, where her mother informed her she had 1 month to find work or she'd be homeless there too. I thought the story was over. I was wrong. A month later, I was finally enjoying peace in my life. I'd started fostering Lily, a 4-year-old daughter of a friend who needed to leave the U.S. for immigration processing. Lily and I bonded immediately. She's smart, funny, and shares my love of Star Wars movies. My mother was thrilled to have a foster granddaughter and sent Lily some awesome Sith costume pieces for Halloween. When my mother posted photos of Lily in her costume on Facebook, she forgot that she hadn't blocked Karen. Karen saw the photos and completely lost it. She started calling my mother at all hours, demanding money and asking for my contact information. When my mother blocked her, Karen found a way to send me a 16-page document through an old school friend. The document was titled Final Demands and included a bizarre list of things Karen claimed I owed her. Custody of Lily so I could adopt Karen's baby instead. My share of our grandmother's apartment, which she had no legal claim to. $500,000 in cash, my pets, and assistance getting her back into the United States illegally. She threatened to sue me if I didn't comply with these demands within 30 days. I forwarded the entire document to my lawyer, who filed for a formal no-contact order. I also sent copies to our family members, including our eldest brother who lives in Europe. His response was simple. "I'll handle this." Within a week, Karen's harassment stopped completely. I later learned that our brother had contacted Karen's mother and made it clear that any further contact with me would result in Karen losing all family support, including the temporary housing her mother was providing. Today, I'm thriving in my career with a recent promotion to senior cybersecurity analyst, earning $95,000. Lily and I are planning a Clone Wars marathon this weekend, and she's already correcting people who call her adorable by insisting she's Sith, not cute. My mother absolutely adores her foster granddaughter and spoils her with Star Wars merchandise. Karen remains in our home country, where she struggled to find steady work due to the reputation that followed her back home. Ken was sentenced to 6 months in jail and has continued to have legal troubles since his release. The restraining order I have against him remains in effect. Mary successfully moved to Portland, got married to her girlfriend, and visits me regularly. We never speak about Karen, and we're both happier for it. The most satisfying part of this entire ordeal is that I never had to compromise my values or stoop to Karen's level to protect myself. I use legal channels, professional resources, and my support network exactly as they're designed to be used. Karen's downfall was entirely self-inflicted through her own poor choices and escalating desperation. Sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to enable someone's bad behavior and letting natural consequences do the work for you.